Hello, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. I'm sure we're joining, we are having participants or rather guests from all over the world. And I want to take this opportunity to welcome you to this webinar. My name is Vincent Mwangi. I'm the co-executive director of Mama Hope. And today's webinar is about using AI tools for operational efficiency, and we have been joined by Brighton Kaoma, who will introduce himself later. But I just wanted to introduce this session a bit and let you and let everyone know that this is part of our Localization Development Accelerator program, continued learning. And some of our cohort members are in here. So as our LDA program progresses, we also have other learning activities, and part of it was this because our partners are currently doing operations and finance module. So we also thought of bringing in a webinar, but then at the same time opening it up to other people. So that's why we have different organizations participating. And so if you would like to interact or get to know much more about Mama Hope's work and how you can interact with our programs, we will share our details and you can reach out to us so that we can have a discussion. So today we are joined by Brighton Kaoma, who is an entrepreneur and AI business fellow at Perplexity and the founder of Amano.so, a community that supports high potential managers and impact founders through AI-powered tools, peer support groups, and expert training. Brighton has over 10 years of leadership experience in international development, including roles at the United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network, WWF Africa, and Forbes. Brighton has received numerous global recognition, such as Queen's Young Leader Award, WWF International President's Leader, and Mandela Washington Fellowship. He he holds an MPA from Columbia University and is currently pursuing an MS in science, in computer science engineering, specializing in AI solutions for social impact. So we're so grateful to have such an expert talking to and taking us through such an important topic that is so relevant to our times as well as our organization. So Brighton, I'll leave you to take over this session, and yeah, we'll have questions later on, and yeah, enjoy the learning.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Vinny. I appreciate. I will share my screen. Give me 1 second. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
So I'm gonna get into presentation mode. Great. Awesome. So first I would like to just say thanks for inviting me to get a chance to speak to everybody. I know everybody in the meeting today is doing incredible work, solving the world's greatest challenges. And as I've been introduced, my name is Brighton Kaoma. I am Zambian, but currently based out of New York and focusing on, building technologies and AI solutions for global social impact, focusing primarily on people as well as the planet. And today I'm going to speak to you about a topic which is extremely important to me and to society as a whole, but something that all of us should care about because the rise of AI is reshaping the world of work. It's reshaping how we run institutions, how we manage ourselves, how we manage those that we work with, but also it presents both opportunities and challenges. I typically describe it as a double-edged sword that you can use for both good, but also, if not applied well, may create inefficiencies and inequalities in society. Uh, First, I would like to begin just by defining what this topic we're discussing is all about. And in the most simplest ways that allows us to, digest the key definition of artificial intelligence. Others have described artificial intelligence in many different ways, but to me, it's simply the simulation of human intelligence. Full stop. Nothing special about the many different dimensions of the definition. AI is a simulation of human intelligence, specifically in machines. And what does this do when human intelligence is simulated? Machines then begin to learn, perceive, reason, and solve problems autonomously. Then, when problems are being solved autonomously by machines, it then comes back to the brains behind the creation of these, you know, uh, tools and technologies, which is the human intelligence. So human intelligence will always have a huge bearing on the type of artificial intelligence tools and frameworks and architecture that is developed. So AI typically relies on machine learning because, like we defined in our first definition, it's machines acting autonomously uh, and simulating human intelligence to be able to perceive, to reason, to guess, like we see when we're using specific digital tools like, ChatGPT, Perplexity, where I currently serve as an AI business fellow. All these answer engines are built on the simulation of human intelligence, and they are able to perceive, reason, learn, and solve problems autonomously. Within AI, there are particular components that AI relies on. That includes what they call natural language processing, computer vision, and other advanced technologies to mimic and surpass human cognitive abilities. And surpassing human cognitive abilities in this particular case is referring to the different functions of intelligence. There's the emotional intelligence and there's the cognitive intelligence. There is logic and there is reason. But computers have been found to be very good at particular elements of the human intelligence. And I'll speak about this later in my presentation around how, artificial intelligence to some degree could surpass cognitive abilities, maybe based on speed of processing information or based on its ability to crowdsource information from the web and inform and make recommendations or suggestions or be able to reason much faster. Then the other element of AI is called applications. So since we understand what AI means, it's simply simulating human intelligence in machines. It has different components that relies on natural language processing, computer vision, and other advanced technologies. Then application is what now we begin to see. So the definition and the components are on the back end. The application is the interface that you and I get to see when we are using the most, advanced artificial intelligence tools. And I'm referring to ChatGPT or Perplexity because, or Gemini or Claude, because they're the most ubiquitous and available examples that we can use. So when you log in into your, artificial intelligent chatbot, you'll be able to now interact with it, and that's where the application comes in. So application is happening in so many industries, from healthcare to finance, transportation, services, and all of it is enhancing decision making and driving innovation. The classical example that I like to give all the time is how AI and robotics have evolved over time. Sim Early robots started very simple. If you live in an African community like I did growing up, you would always see people at nearby fabrication outlets or makeshift fabrication outlets doing the welding. Um, and I didn't realize that that was actually an element of robotics. So welding was one of the early applications of robotics. And then we started seeing advancements in the way machines were now being programmed and designed for them to create repetitive tasks. This was happening on the assembly lines in manufacturing and welding, like I described. Then we saw another evolution of advancements. So AI and robotics technology became even more sophisticated because they now started incorporating AI sensors, dexterity, in order for them to perform even larger, complex, multidimensional tasks with increased autonomy. I always give examples of this advancement in airlines. Airlines have seen the most fastest application of artificial intelligence tools and sensors, from grand innovations like um, autonomous flights, but also to how customer experience and efficiency has been increased. When you get to the airport now, actually they know where you're gonna sit. They know your miles. If your flight is canceled, they will automatically, without so much human interference, be able to put you on another flight and send you a text to say, calm down, relax, we're taking care of this. This is an excellent application of AI at a more faster rate. But that's just one among many other reasons. Then we're seeing now an upward trend in the way AI and its application in robotics is evolving towards more collaborative, adaptive, and intelligent systems that can very swiftly, seamlessly work alongside humans in various industries, which is what I'll also discuss around how does this application affect you and I, and how does this application of AI tools help us increase operational efficiency? Either you're running an organization or you're part of a team or you're thinking about, starting an initiative. What are some of the practical ways that artificial intelligence can help you improve operational efficiency? In terms of applications, I would like to run you through some of the areas that I might have, described initially. And now we're seeing more practical application of all these tools across various industries. And this is, uh, non-exhaustive. Healthcare, transportation, manufacturing, and consumer tech are just some of the many different ways in which we are seeing vast, swift application of AI frameworks and tools. For example, in healthcare, we are seeing, how technology, especially AI-powered diagnostic tools, or robotic surgery, personalized treatment, are changing the way that patient care and outcomes happen. Now it's even faster and easier for diagnostics that took many years to be able to be cut in much shorter times because of early detection of specific conditions using different AI tools. We have companies that are already pioneers in this space, especially in San Francisco. We're seeing lots of startups in health tech that are reducing the friction that has existed and centralizing treatment and care. One of them is, a telemedicine, teleconsultation between doctors and patients. It's also in Rwanda, but was born out of San Francisco. In the transportation industry, that's where we're also seeing vast application of AI innovation. For example, self-driving cars. I was in San Francisco not long ago, and when I got at the airport, I had to book a self-driving car because I just wanted to get in it for the experience of it. And just seeing how, intelligently a car moves from point A to point B without a driver in it was quite exhilarating. But a reminder that innovation is happening at a very fast pace, and these large language models upon which AI is built and integrated in robotics is quite inspiring. Uh, in manufacturing, we're also seeing how there's been enhanced, productivity, quality control. It's easy to detect risk, to forecast much faster because AI is being used as an integrative, tool across these different industries. Consumer tech, we're seeing like AI-driven personal assistants. It's helping fast track the amount of time it takes to seek service. Personalized recommendations are also transforming uh, our everyday life. But at the same time, all these opportunities come with their own set of challenges. Just like what happened when we were, moving into the Industrial Revolution. Um, there was so much discussion, even prior to that generation, around electricity. And when the first light bulb lit up in New York, uh, so much happened and was built on top of that. But that happened because there was an infrastructure beneath where all these applications were being built. There was electricity as an infrastructure. And then on top of that, we started seeing innovations like the light bulb, computers, appliances. Then on top of that, we also started seeing services being built on top of this sort of like new, innovative sort of, transition. We also had a very inflection point within AI. There's the infrastructure element, which in this case includes infrastructure such as, you know, data centers, and those data centers are what powering the technology that is being built on it, be it hardware or software. Then on top of that, that's when we are seeing all these AI applications and consumption. So all these three particular layers work in asynchronously, but they create opportunities and they create challenges, just like what happened when we were going through this transition of electricity being discovered, the light bulb being discovered, and then different appliances being built on top of the infrastructure that was being built. But also in climate, which is something that I've been extremely passionate about, we're seeing how it's much easier now to be able to, detect, early infections in plants or animals simply by downloading an app and scanning a leaf on the streets, and you'll be able to tell what's happening and get recommendations on what sort of, treatment should you give this type of vegetation. Back then, people would always use this sort of, pen and paper, dichotomy trees to understand what's really going on. But now there's so much efficiency happening. In terms of the opportunities and challenges, similar with how I described, this revolution during the discovery of electricity and Thomas Edison and the light bulb, we're also seeing that AI uh, is creating immense opportunities in terms of helping us cut the amount of time it takes to do research. For example, if you're running an organization, I think that's a very important element. You want to do, research much faster and much efficiently. And we have so many tools that can help with deep search. At Perplexity, some of the different versions of the AI, be it Sona, or ChatGPT-4, can help with research faster than the human brain can ever conceive. Um, but at the same time, we see that while increased efficiency,
Brighton,
productivity. Yep.
sorry, but there's an issue with the screen. I'm seeing a number of people saying they cannot see
Wow.
your screen. So um, maybe we can have one Mama Hope share on our end, if
Yeah.
yeah, because maybe we can stop sharing your screen and then try and do it on our end because we have the presentation.
Oh, yes. Sorry about that.
No worries,
Let
no worries.
me know if you can share it.
continue talking as we
Yes,
as
and I'll tell you the particular slide uh,
okay.
that I would like for you to be able to share. So, so back to the opportunities and challenges. Uh, the opportunities are quite immense in terms of increased efficiency, productivity within your team, um, and there's also so much innovation across industries. So these like enhanced human capabilities and the creation of new jobs, like we are seeing, present some of the opportunities. But at the same time, there's so much, concern around job displacements, and it's a fact. There's so much job displacements. Even right now, tech companies um, reducing the amount of staffing because a lot of the processes are being automated across teams. Uh, there's also challenges around data privacy, um, as well as algorithmic biases, because if these technologies are being trained on large data and on large language models, they get to be prone to algorithmic biases. Um, and the need for ethical frameworks to guide AI deployment and AI development. What are some of the ways through which there could be ethical frameworks around the deployment of AI development? Of course, workforce impact is one of the other greatest challenges. The rise of AI will require reskilling and upskilling for workers to adapt to the changing job market. This would mean thinking about and doing an internal audit around what are some of the skills that I need to develop. Not everybody needs to learn how to code, but it's the intelligence on asking the right questions, being able to uh, efficiently adapt to the changing job market. So other challenges that we're also seeing includes impact on society as a whole, uh, because the widespread of AI raises questions about the equitable distribution of benefits and potential societal disruptions. Some of the other challenges that we're seeing includes the impact of running these large language processes, uh, and the data centers, which is the infrastructure, which takes up so much energy, and its impact on the climate, for example. So we are seeing so much, questions around how do we make these processes more inclusive? How do we make these processes to support solving world's greatest challenges of our time?
So Brighton, what slide would you like us to present from slide?
Yeah, so the impact on employment and the workforce. Let me know when you see. So I can still see the practical application on my screen. Yeah, but you can go to the impact on employment and workforce. Yeah. Uh, so what we are seeing, back to the challenges and the impact that these technologies are having on workforce, is simply job displacement, skill transformation, and new job creation. We see that the automation processes and the use of AI-powered systems are replacing certain tasks which were done by human beings, um, and replacing particular roles that were done by human beings. And we're seeing a wave in job losses in specific sectors. Skill transformation, which also includes that the workforce needs to even adapt by developing new skills to work alongside AI and robotic systems, is more critical. There are particular things which these technology tools are not really good at. So the human forecast, human interface, the emotional connection that we create between people and people. Um, so how do we even individually do a self-assessment and an audit around how do I exist alongside advancements in artificial intelligence and robotics, because these things are here to stay. So while there's like displacement of jobs, there's also new job creation that is happening, just like what happened when the light bulb was invented. So many other things happened and were built on top of electricity. Jobs were lost, but jobs were also created. And we're at that particular inflection point where there's new job creation, which just requires that opportunities in areas like AI development, data analysis, and system maintenance are increasing in demand. Um, but there are also many other, skills which AI cannot replace and are becoming even more critical. In the next slide, I will describe what we are also seeing across ethical considerations. Because if something is being built on an infrastructure and using large amounts of data, which are data on the World Wide Web, there are also issues around ethical considerations in AI and robotics. The first is bias and fairness. There could be a perpetuation and amplification of human biases in some of these tools, which can lead to discriminatory decisions and outcomes. We see that in the US, where redlining and the zip code and the school that you went to tends to determine quite a lot around where you end up landing a job or if you ever get interviewed. So there's so many biases that some of these technologies tends to have because they're being trained on data that has historically left out a lot of people behind. There's also an issue of accountability and determining responsibility and liability for the actions of autonomous systems. So if an autonomous system ends up creating liability in society, who has to take accountable for that? So there's so much research going on around the legal implications of autonomous systems and the accountability frameworks which governments are taking up around the world. In Georgia, government is actually taking a huge step because AI and robotics has been adopted in government systems. It's one of the, top countries in the world that has adopted advanced technologies. Actually, it's surprising for me because when you think about AI, you think about China and the United States, but Georgia as a small country is way, way, way advanced. The issue of privacy and security also comes into play because there's huge collection and use of sensitive data. So how do we ensure that privacy that rises is managed in a way that is ethical, that protects human rights, that does not violate the rights of people, but also proprietary data? How do you ensure that there's no infringement on copyrights? We saw cases around OpenAI and the New York Times. Legal suits are coming up because these large language models that have been built for AI use a lot of data that's on the World Wide Web. Transparency is also one of the biggest challenges. The need to, transparently explain how the AI decision making is happening, uh, because this then builds a lot of public trust. Most of the tools now, I believe some of you use ChatGPT, you use Gemini or Cloud, are now able to run you through its reasoning. So when it's processing data, it's telling you what it's doing. Or right now, I'm now collecting data from here. These are my references. So there's a bit of transparency which companies are now building into the code to make sure that you understand what's going on and there's trust between what information you're getting and the queries that you're feeding. Um, but there's also quite a lot that's happening. And in the next slide, I'm going to just run you through some of the key, emerging trends and future developments that I think you should, take some time to read a little bit more and do some research. And these are three-tiered. Intelligent automation, which includes the integration of AI and robotics, which will lead to more and more advanced, adaptive, and autonomous systems. We're seeing this in automobile. Uh, for example, Tesla is going to be testing its pilot of fully autonomous cars. Um, and that is going to be happening in a few months uh, in Texas. The other element in terms of future development and emerging trends is human robotic collaboration. It's this human and technology collaboration because there's just so much which this robotics can do or AI can do without human in the loop. So there's a lot of demand around robotic and humans working together and complementing each other's efficiencies. So technology, for example, can process math faster than the human brain, which is a fact. We saw that in the AlphaGo game. Nobody had beat, the global champion in the Chinese AlphaGo, a board game. But Google DeepMind came up with, a robotic that was smart enough and beats the world champion. So in terms of like logic, reasoning, data, arithmetics, we are seeing that artificial intelligence tools are doing way, way, way better and faster than humans can. But in terms of, reasoning, connection, emotion, the other side of the brain, technology doesn't do well. So there's a huge need around, technology and humans and humans just going through the loop because these technologies create mistakes. They create mistakes. Um, and humans have to go through and check what's really going on. So the human intelligence, which is called HI, and the artificial intelligence AI is becoming among the most emerging trends. Ethical AI frameworks, which focuses more on the policy side of things. There's robust ethical guidelines and governance models are emerging slowly at the level of government, at the level of municipalities. And this will be crucial for the responsible deployment of artificial intelligence because there's need for guide rails, there's need for protection of human beings and ensuring that there are ethical considerations in the way that these technologies are being built because they're also being used by governments. These technologies are also accessing so much data, and it's important to ensure that privacy and ethical frameworks are considered. In the next slide, I will just quickly run you through, the integration of AI and robotics into our daily lives, but also into our daily work. For example, smart homes, devices like so many that we're seeing from Alexa to many others, will increasingly automate and enhance every household's tasks um, and also customization in terms of what you love and what you enjoy. For example, if you use tools like Spotify or Apple Music, it knows what you love, it knows what you're listening to. You don't have to do it manually yourself. At the end of the year, it's going to give you a report of what you enjoy and create a favorite playlist. So lots of personalization, which is going to be saving us quite a lot of time. Healthcare is also one of the areas where we're seeing AI-driven diagnostics. Remote monitoring is on the rise, and robotic surgery will transform patient care. We are seeing all these technologies not in the next 10 years, but in the now. Autonomous mobility, like I described, is already on the rise, and intelligent transportation systems will just revolutionize how we move and commute, be it through mass public transit, but also through individualized automobile. Laning, which is also a big part, and I believe all of you are going through this Mama Hop program to learn and acquire new skills. So AI-powered education technologies will do one thing uniquely, and that's personalization and customization to enhance learning experiences. And we're seeing this already with like Udemy and Coursera and many others. They're customizing how you learn. Maybe it's through bite-sized, education resources, or quickly assessing areas where you need to upskill and recommending resources or courses. So customization is going to be the most critical element in terms of how we enhance operational efficiency. I always give a classical example of growing up in Zambia. When I went to the grocery store uh, close to where I grew up, uh, those very typical small um, corrugated roof sheet grocery stores. And when I went there, the shopkeeper, if I went in the morning, knew what I really wanted. So he knew that in the morning, maybe I want to buy, a sachet of dairy milk. Maybe in the evenings, he would realize that I want to buy a token of electricity. So he was actually studying my patterns and knew what I really wanted. So I never wasted time by actually going through a list. He would actually predict and say, Brighton usually likes buying XYZ in the morning, and at lunch he does that. And in the evenings, his mother would send him to go and buy token of electricity or supplement groceries. And it's the scaling of that personalization that all of us humans enjoy because it saves us so much time. And if you have a technology that is studying you, understanding your preferences and your likes and what you enjoy, it can improve a lot in the way that you run your organization. And there are so many tools right now powered by AI that can help you think about how do you cut cost, how do you become more efficient, how do you collect better data, how do you report to your donors and your partners, what do they want to hear, what do they care about. So it can customize your institution to help you be able to scale without too much hassle and bustle. So it's this customization that we are seeing on the rise across the different application of AI tools. But in the next slide, as I describe this sort of transition, we're seeing three key areas. And I'll run through this so that I can pause in case there are particular questions that some of you might have. We're seeing, transformative impact. And this stems from the way industries are being reshaped, the way opportunities are being created, and also the challenges that are coming with ethical considerations. Just like any, revolution, there's going to be ethical consideration, there's going to be opportunities, there's going to be challenges. But how do we adapt? Because all these systems are here to stay. They're here to stay and they're just becoming more and more advanced. But we can use them to our advantage to be able to grow our organizations, scale our organizations, scale our work and projects, or even become more efficient in our teams. There's a huge focus on responsible deployment of AI. So much government frameworks, ethical principles are becoming increasingly crucial to ensure that there's equitable development and deployment of these tools. Workforce adaptation is also on the rise. Workforce will need to continuously evolve. And the beauty with the human species is we constantly evolve. We constantly evolve and adapt. And that's what builds resilience in our species. So there's a lot around continuously evolving and developing new skills to thrive in the age of AI and automation. And like I said, it doesn't mean you have to learn computer science or learn how to code. It's about reason. How do you ask the right questions? How do you ask the right queries so that you can get the right outcomes and outputs? Because these machines depend on what you're feeding it. So those that are going to win in this race are those that know how to ask the right questions, those that know how to connect with other human beings, to build social networks and relationships and connections, because those are going to be fundamental elements of growing your institutions or growing your career. It's those human elements. Others consider them to be soft skills, but I think soft skills are now the hard skills because computers can't do those soft skills. So how do you ensure that you double down on the ever-evolving skill needs? Uh, The future seems to be more integrated than an isolation of humans and technology. Uh, AI and robotics will definitely become increasingly integrated in our daily lives. It's already doing that, and it's going to transform how we live, how we work, and how we interact. It's also going to democratize, and it's already doing that, what it means to write because of language barrier. And like if you're like me, and if English is your, third or sixth language, there were so many barriers around. How do you ensure that you don't spend a lot of resources on copy editing? These tools can copy edit resources, reports for you faster than any human being can. But of course, the human in the loop is quite critical. So I will, in a nutshell and in summary, say the most critical element and trends that we are seeing are pretty much transformation. I feel that AI is actually underhyped. There's a lot of ways through which it's being underhyped. I see it having immense potential to transform how we run institutions, but at the same time, it calls for us to be aware of how these technologies are designed, what they're intended to do, what type of data we are feeding them in, and what sort of outputs we're expecting. But also building integrated teams and building relationships, and supporting those that you work with is going to be more critical now than ever before. So I will stop here. In case there are any particular questions, I'll pass it on to you, Vinny, if there are any next steps, and I can take over some questions as well.
Thank you, Brighton, for that great presentation. And actually, speaking about AI being underhyped, there's one particular friend of mine called Akida. He's asked, maybe that could be the first question that we look into. And I'm going to read what he's typed. He said, but how authentic is AI? And why is it hard for it to be accepted to some organizations like employment agencies? He says that he's seen a video on IG which shows how one can use AI to authenticate work done by ChatGPT to seem like more human touch. So he's like, it's crazy. So maybe you can start by answering that.
Yes,
Or
absolutely. I think that's a very important question around trust, authentication, originality, because um, a lot of information, even when you're doing research using all these particular tools, AI-generated content often appears highly authentic. It does on the surface, but then when you take another layer, um, in terms of like, what does authentic mean? Is anything that is generated by technology authentic from the perspective of the technology, or is it inauthentic from the perspective of humans? And I see authenticity for me meaning genuine origin, genuine intent, and trustworthiness. And truly, it's also very challenging for AI to be able to deliver that. And I think that's the reason why, generative AI, for example, they're able to create text, they're able to create images and videos that can be nearly indistinguishable from those made by humans. And it's actually fascinating when you see that the blurring of boundaries make it even very challenging to determine whether something is genuinely human-made or artificially produced. And I feel that this struggle of AI and authenticity stems from statistical imitations, which is not originality. Sometimes information can also be very fabricated because these machines hallucinate. And it's that hallucination that sometimes you're like, actually, I wasn't expecting that this is the type of like answers or output it should be able to give me based on my inputs. But also we are seeing deep fakes and synthetic sort of media where fake images or videos can be created. I've seen videos where a particular leader was created, a particular global leader was seen wearing the robe of the Pope. And they actually came and said, actually, that's not an authentic picture. Somebody created it online. And that creates a lot of, deep fakes and synthetic media. Um, but there are also like technical limitations that make it hard to sort of like verify. We also see like the issue of, you know, evolving threats around detection methods, and how do we ensure that we have systems that are already doing that. There's actually a startup which was started by two Columbia students, um, and they were kicked out of the university recently because typically the AI-powered bot they've created helps anybody cheat on an exam. And now they've raised money for it, like millions of dollars has been raised for them to be able to deploy this, and they're building. And these are like, 20, 19, 21-year-olds. And they've created this type of technology which others can use to cheat on an exam. So like, what's the ethical consideration in there? How is this creating equity? If somebody uses this to cheat on an exam and somebody studied for an exam, then there's no fairness in that. So we're also seeing, I think, a huge emphasis on how do we ensure that there are safeguards and there are authentic safeguards, and how do we make sure that there's human in the loop, because eventually whatever is generated by AI, a human person, that's how I approach it, should go through it and use that as a base uh, for ideation and enhanced reasoning. I hope I answered the question as expected.
Thank you, Brighton, for answering that. Um, I first of all, I love the questions that are being asked. The second one, from Noella, she's asking, what is the future of AI for African entrepreneurs, and how can we leverage it as early adopters?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a very important question. Uh, Africa presents immense potential from the demographic dividend and all many other reasons that all of us know very clearly. Um, and this is a very inflection point to think about integration of AI into our work. It might be from as, you know, simple as enhancing operational efficiency, using these tools to ensure that you are operating more efficiently. Um, I remember having worked on a project and people didn't realize that for a very long time it was just being run by two people, but the amount of outputs were synonymous to what, previously a 10, 20 team person would be able to do. But if you are bootstrapping and you are, an early startup, you haven't raised much capital, you also want to make sure that your burn rate is very low. But if you can use these tools to ensure that you're able to deliver the same type of results and outputs as you build, as you grow, maybe it might also, using these tools to create your first MVP without spending much money. Um, because now we are seeing, no code sort of platforms that you can use to build apps, to test with your market, validate if there is huge, market for what you're building, and then go and build something in native. So it's, I think, an opportune time to be able to, first of all, be very progressive about what's happening and just do a reality check of how anybody that remains behind in adopting these things will not win this particular race. If you're playing to win, if you're playing this game bit with your startup to win and create jobs at scale and faster, then you have no option but to be thinking very strongly about how you as a leader, but also as a team and those you work with, can begin to embrace the application and use of these technologies. It could be you building your own much faster, or it could be you enhancing productivity by integrating, all these, AI tools into your work, or it could be you using them as collaborative tools to be able to process data much, much faster. But I would say it's an opportune time, and I always advise anybody that I speak to, take it with optimism, because it can do more than we can imagine.
Thank you, Brighton. I'm going to combine these two questions, one from Mariana and another one from Lumanti. So Mariana asks, how have you approached training your team or ensuring ethical and responsible use of AI? And then Lumanti asks, what societal values should guide the integration of AI into how we live, work, and interact?
Yeah, thank you. Those are very important questions. And thanks for combining them. Because when you look at uh, building team culture, they always say culture eats strategy for breakfast. So if you want your culture not to eat your strategy for breakfast, then you need to begin to think about how do we move together in terms of the vision that we've created, how can we all be on the same page? Because if you are a leader who's leading an organization and you're very optimistic about using these, tools and technologies, while those that you work with, I would call them your lieutenants, uh, are not on the same page with you, then there's going to be inefficiencies in the way that technology is adopted within your organization. So I would say curiosity, number one. I think being curious and exploring the current existing tools. It could be through, looking at what are some of the tools that can help, cut down the amount of time that we do market research. What are some of the tools we can use to efficiently manage our books? What are the tools that we can use to be able to package our reports much faster? And there's so many that really exist. So I think doing an initial audit within your team and yourself helps to understand where those gaps lie. But at the same time, the backbone of building a team and inspiring everybody to be on the same, technology strategy boat, if you create your own tech strategy, it's the values that guide us as a people, the values of honesty, the values of transparency, the values of accountability, and just the transparency around acknowledging and citing where information is coming from. Whenever I'm sharing any information, I openly say, this is actually generated by ChatGPT or Perplexity. I think using that as a foundation helps to build trust. It helps to build originality because that's who we are. We are people that have been guided by principles of, integrity and dignity, um, and we're seeing that even in companies across Fortune 500 companies, the issue of accountability, transparency, and intent, but also your personal values of originality. I think it's the basic values which our mothers teach us, which should also be applied in the way that we interact with these technologies, be it within ourselves or with our teams.
Thank you for answering that. And building onto your answer, Brighton, I'm going to combine three questions that are in line or building onto that. There's one from Douglas. He says, you have mentioned that different AI tools are built to perform different functions. Kindly unpack this statement by providing some examples of widely used AI tools. And then James asks, adding on the question from Douglas, can you specify examples of administrative work? What kind of bulk activities that you can simplify with those tools? And then Joshua, on similar in the same line, asks, how can AI help those foundation which were involved in problem solving do their work? I don't know. Yeah, but yeah, maybe you can answer those three.
Yeah, thanks. Those are very important questions, and I think they now drive us to the applicability of some of these tools in our operational efficiency. And I will also be a little bit biased and give you some of the things that I use personally within our organization, because then that also helps, bring reality. So there are so many like AI tools which are now being integrated into many aspects of our business and our daily lives. This like can span a broad range of applications. And some of the widely used tools, I think I categorize them from the level of conversational AI chatbots and then content creation and productivity. and image, video, and audio generation. I used to be in radio before and I produce a podcast. So there are particular tools that I use in like audio generation where I don't even need a producer to be able to do that. And then translation and language is like another element, and search and research. And I'll start with search and research. I'm an AI business fellow at this search engine in San Francisco called Perplexity. Perplexity is changing the way that search happens. It's one of the major competitors of the company that we've all known to be the monopoly in the market called Google. And Perplexity is providing massive competition in terms of integrating live, web research in your chatbot. And it's so intelligent, it's so smart. It comes with different versions. Another like search and research is called Zapier, if some of you might have used it. And Zapier is an AI platform that sort of focuses on workflows and integration. So it can help automate all your repetitive tasks, the tasks that you do on a daily basis, across all your different apps. So that integration is so helpful. Others includes like, the usual image, video, and audio generation. So for example, in this category, we see AI-powered tools like Riverside, for example, where you can actually edit video by editing out the text. So the text is integrated into the video, and that helps increase efficiency. I use that to produce my podcast. There are also others like 11 Labs, which focuses on text to speech voice cloning. And it's interesting because it can help you support multiple languages and voice types. So if you're using 11 Labs, even when I'm on a call like this, I can simply start speaking Spanish by just integrating it into my meeting, or I can start speaking Swahili and converse effectively. There's a 3-second lag, but you'll be able to hear me speak Swahili. So that's like next level innovation in the category of translation and language. And then OpenAI also has the image and video generation. They're called the Dell E2, which is pretty much generates images from text prompts, but also in terms of like operational daily tasks in your organization. If you've used Canva, it has so much iterations now, such that PowerPoint is not being used anymore. And it's amazing to just see how the world's most popular AI-powered graphic design platform is offering all these tools that graphic designers used to do. So meaning it saves you money as an organization when you get subscription to some of these things. I use Notion AI personally to just enhance my own productivity in terms of like note taking, AI-powered writing, organization, workflow optimization. In terms of like editing to remain more authentic, Grammarly is one of the best, advanced, tools that's existing. In terms of like conversational chatbots, I would name like four, which I use. Of course, it's ChatGPT, the OpenAI one. Claude. I find Claude to be very kind. It focuses more on like producing helpful. It focuses more on honest, harmless content. Claude has been considered as one of the most public interest sort of conversational AI chatbots because of the mission of the company itself. And of course, Google Gemini and Microsoft Copilot. So those are some of the tools among many others. But also you realize that as I just speak to you right now, an AI tool has been made somewhere in China or San Francisco or Nairobi or Singapore. There's like a huge churn in terms of like everything that is being made now is AI dash powered this, AI this, because of the type of age that we are in. There's a lot of it is also noise. So I'm also very skeptical around what sort of like tools do I adopt? Should I be an early adopter for particular tools, or should I remain using the ones that I use for like productivity? I could also share some notes for those that signed up for the meeting, uh, for you to like look at some resources, but also I can share some materials on what does ethical application of AI in my life and my work mean. So I can share some resources and reading materials with the rest of the team.
Thank you, Brighton. So we have three sets of questions and one last one before we close. So I'm going to combine three questions that are similar. There's one from Christine. She asks, how can responsible use of AI promote tech for good, especially for African startups? How can one use prompt engineering to leverage on creativity and innovation for us creatives? And then Joshua, no, not Joshua. Brenda Victoria asks, how can human intelligence and artificial intelligence best complement each other in the workplace? And then Simon has also asked an interesting one. I have seen in most cases, like us who do training for entrepreneurs, when you give them assignments, they tend to run direct to AI to get what they are asked of. Don't you think AI is going to affect brainstorming process for entrepreneurs?
Oh, nice. I love those questions. They're so thoughtful. Um, and the responsible application questions that you've merged together just helps me frame the conversation around like, what does it mean when we say responsible technology or responsible AI in itself? And others have defined it in so many ways, but for me, I see the responsible deployment of artificial intelligence systems um, to include ethical considerations, transparency, and aligned with societal values. But then it's the definition of societal values that even becomes core. So, like, what principles are these societal values that we should be thinking about when we say responsible technology? We mean fairness, we mean transparency, we mean accountability, we mean privacy and protection, security, and how do we ensure that there is an adherence to these things? Even in our workplaces, if we're using these systems, how do we ensure that there's fairness, there's transparency, there's accountability, there's privacy protection, and there is security? Because if we don't do these things, then there'll be an increase in bias. I think we discussed bias earlier, where these systems are designed to make impartial decisions, but at the same time, they avoid this reinforcement of like specific social norms because they're very agnostic to those things. Um, the question about creativity and research and brainstorming, I'll try to put them together because when you think about brainstorming and sort of ideation, there are schools in the US. China did make the lead when they introduced AI in other schools, where primary schools will be using AI and they give you access to these things. Um, the United States also created a policy where they said this is existing. We're going to give our kids access to AI in schools. At the first level of research, it could help like generate general ideas, but I think it's human in the loop and customizing whatever prompts which the AI is going to provide. Because the fact is, even in workplaces, when you're brainstorming, somebody's going to use it because it's available. So how do you then use that as an opportunity to marry it with the human intelligence aspect, where human is in the loop? We have to understand, what does this mean if I, put in this prompt and it gives me this type of ideas from our initial brainstorming? How does this mean in reality? How do we make it authentic? How do we build on it? And we're seeing organizations being able to do that to actually enhance the amount of time it even takes to brainstorm. Maybe if it takes 2 hours to brainstorm, maybe use it and cut that amount of time in 30 minutes or 60 minutes. Um, the question on prompt engineering is quite important because I think the definition of prompt engineering is even more critical here because we're in simpler terms, when we say prompt engineering, what we're just saying is the art and science of crafting effective inputs, which are we call prompts, and to guide these AI models in generating desired outputs. For example, for creatives like designers, writers, artists, marketers, prompt engineering is a powerful tool because number one, it does unlock creativity in so many different ways. By quickly like producing multiple variations of a design or a layout. So if you're an architect, it can give you different layouts for you to build off. It also like accelerates this ideation and prototyping. It can cut the amount of time it takes. Um, and like I said, enhanced personalization where the man needs to come in because if it gives you generalization, how do you now go in and customize? And that's how even companies are now trying to do with technology to use it to customize. But humans are good at customization. Of course, there's an improvement in efficiency through prompt engineering. We also see uh, prompts can also support, to ensure that the outputs meet accessible standards. So you could be able to do research to ensure that there's accessibility in that respect. So for example, if you are a UX architect, or a creative or a designer working on the front end computer engineering side of things, you can actually use prompt engineering to generate like different 5 homepage layouts with different aesthetics. And that cuts you the amount of time it takes for you to, focus on other things, maybe focus more on sales, focus on things that bring you revenue and money within your organization.
Yeah, that's really amazing. So, again, this is the last set of questions, but there's someone who sent something interesting. Maybe you can touch on it. But then the last set of questions is going to be more on resources. Maybe Breton, if you have any resources that you could share afterwards for participants to have a look at, it will be great. So one thing George is asking, what are the examples of good prompts or commands for interacting with AI tools in the NGO business? If possible, also share the relevant AI tools for a NGO work. And then we have another question from Akida. He's asking if you were to advise an organization having an AI policy, what components could you advise be thought of? Do you have a template we can consider to refer to?
Yeah, absolutely. Those are like very interesting questions because uh, there's so many sort of prompts. Uh, and I could share materials as well. Vinny, after this, we can put together some resources in terms of like what prompts do you feed some of these AI-powered tools to get the best outputs. Uh, the standard rule, which I believe most of you might even be using already, is in any particular prompt that you are doing. For example, if you're using Claude or ChatGPT or Perplexity, Perplexity is my favorite, by the way. So if you're using one of these, always assign your chatbot a role. Give them a role before you write anything underneath. So if you go in, you should actually give it a role. So act as ABC. So in this, you're going to be my donor, for example, and I'm trying to write you a report focusing on what we've done over the last 6 months. This is the data that I have. These are the KPIs that we set. This is how far we've gone. What are some of the most critical elements that I should think about in terms of strategy? So you're giving it a role, you are assigning it a role because it actually working on mimicking human intelligence. And in human intelligence, you want to assign each other roles so that you can perform optimally. And that's how even these technologies pretty much work. So assign it a role and don't say thank you to the chatbots that you're speaking with because just it's processing that thank you takes up so much energy in the data centers. So yeah, sometimes we forget and we think this is a friend we are speaking with, but this is just tech. So don't do that. Um, and the point on the books, I have quite a lot. The one that I'm currently reading was produced probably like 6, 8 years ago by two MIT professors. It's called Platforms, Machine cloud. It focuses on the evolution of AI and human intelligence. Um, and yeah, I see that. Yeah, yeah, you can actually thank it. So yeah, so I'm reading that. I'm also reading Humans and AI: The Future of Work. It's by Jen Mather. It focuses more on leadership transformation and strategy. So that would be like a good read. And I'll put some of these in a template. Another one which um, I read more from like academic recommendation at school was called Human and Machine. It focuses on AI collaboration and business. It's a very good book. And I also share a resource. There's actually a company which is a must watch. It's a spin-off from OpenAI. And it was created because there was friction between um, the female co-founder of OpenAI, who was so focused on responsible technology, and they've created a new company, and it's fantastic. They're creating amazing products. I'll share that with you. Um, I think there was also a question around um,
I think it's a policy one, maybe.
oh yes, yes. There was another one on AI policy. And I think the fundamental element that you can focus on, and I'll share some resources on other existing AI policies for organizations. I think it's doing a of what relationship will exist between your organization and AI. Exploring and understanding that relationship that you want to foster helps you build this particular policy. Uh, it could be from the perspective of, are we going to be an AI first organization, or are we going to be an AI intelligence, coexistence type of organization or company? Or you might also decide that actually, because of what's happening, we are going to be an AI first and we'll build technology and tools that we use. So I think it's understanding and doing an exploration of where you are as an organization and the relationship that you want to build with some of these emerging tools, uh, and the ethical considerations of how these tools should relate with your employees, with your team, with your board. All those elements become extremely critical. And there's so many resources that you can actually use without even reinventing the wheel, depending on how you define this type of relationship between technology and the type of work that you're currently doing. The other book which Bill Gates recommended not long ago, which I also wanted to recommend, is called The Coming Wave by Mustafa Suleiman. It came out in 2023, and it offers like a very clear-eyed view on both the opportunity and risk that AI poses on jobs. So that would also be like a very good book to read. Suleiman fundamentally predicts that AI is going to alter like job structure across nearly all sectors, with like millions of people around the world needing to retrain or shift some of their roles. Um, he also discusses ways through which you can prepare your workforce and your employees and your team around these particular challenges and opportunities. So I would definitely recommend The Coming Wave by Mustafa Suleiman.
Thank you, Brighton. Last one, Lumanti. With the explosion of AI products, how do you distinguish between what's meaningful innovation versus what's just hype or noise?
Yeah, that's a very smart question as well. Um, the distinguishing, because so much stuff is coming out. I was reading the Y Combinator call for their summer applications, and Y Combinator is it's a San Francisco-based accelerator that invests in early stage tech companies around the world with about 500,000 in um, investment. Everything that they are funding right now should be AI powered XYZ, AI powered ABC. That's the only focus right now, fundamentally. But then with this type of evolution that we're in, there comes quite a lot of noise. I think it's time because most of some overhyped tools, if they don't innovate, they become redundant. And I think right now we don't have any key strong monopoly market players in the AI space. That's why the barrier to entry is very low, that anybody, any 19-year-old at Columbia could come up and create technology helps you cheat on your math exam and raises millions of dollars for it. But the sustainability of it is what boils down to ethics and values. And you can intuitively tell between what is authentically genuine and what is not. A lot of the inauthentic technologies we are seeing, they die. They don't survive their fifth birthday. Uh, but those that actually care about humans, care about the feedback which their users provide, tend to be more resilient. And there's a shift towards creating platforms and innovations and technologies that meet human needs and solve human problems, than just providing nice to have and not a must have. So I would say always take every new AI technology with a grain of salt. Learn it, study it, research it, and that type of value it adds to your life and to your work, and whether it aligns with your personal values.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brighton. I think that's it with the questions. Do you have any closing remarks, maybe, Brighton? Um,
Well, I just love uh, the questions that everybody has asked. I think everybody came with very thoughtful, smart questions that can help us be able to think about how we can be more efficient. And I always ask why, like, why should I be efficient as an organization? So what if I'm efficient? What sort of value does it add to what I'm doing and the community and the people that I serve? If the answer to that question is about increasing impact, helping create a world that is equitable, reducing inequality, making society and the planet a better place, then I should be more efficient. What sort of resources help me to become more efficient? Then I do research extensively to understand how, in the age of I can be able to become efficient and deliver more optimally, or think about scale faster with the existence of resources. All these things are raw materials as I see them. AI is a raw material that you can use to be able to make that leap and make that best next big thing. Um, and I fundamentally believe in the old adage that necessity is the mother of invention. When time comes, when it's extremely necessary for the growth of your institution, we become innovative and invention always comes. I would like to also just like thank all of you for your questions and for the invitation to Mama Hope. I hope I was relevant to your work and made any sort of contributions or, provided valuable information. I'll be open to connect on LinkedIn, and I will also share resources through Mama Hope on the policy, on tools, on prompts, or any information that I think would be helpful as you continue to do your work. So congratulations and continue doing the good work you do. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brighton. And you can all connect with Brighton on LinkedIn. I believe I will share a link with you uh, for Brighton's LinkedIn for you to connect with him. And also you can check out Mama Hope on, again, all socials. That's LinkedIn, Instagram, and let's keep this conversation moving. We're going to send a follow-up email with you. Brighton, I hope you're okay with us sharing the presentation, the deck that you shared with us. And we could also discuss on how we can put together resources and we can share with the participants based on the questions that have been asked. So we're going to do a follow-up on that. But I'd like to thank everyone who's set aside some time to join us in this great webinar. And thank you so much, Brighton, for creating time for these. It's so timely and so relevant to the work that most of the organizations are doing. So thank you. And I want to wish you all a great evening for those in East Africa, a great day for those who are not in East Africa. So thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.